Hello, everyone. My name is Javius, and the topic I chose to do my project on is using activity schedules and alternate communication and physical activity settings with individuals with autism spectrum disorder. In this project, I am going to be discussing a wide range of topics relating to use of technology and how it can increase the independence of an individual with autism spectrum disorder. I am a classroom teacher, and I have had an opportunity to teach in a few different settings, including a private school, in addition to a public school, ranging from learning support to severe autistic support, in addition to moderate and higher functioning autistic support, which is my current position at this moment. Some of the topics that I am going to be discussing include: what is autism spectrum disorder? What does it look like? What does it sound like? How do you address it? Like, how do you support these individuals that may have needs that we're not familiar with? How do you program for it? Data collection. How are we taking the best type of data to reflect the positive changes in the programming that we're providing to our students? Are we still using paper and pencil? Have we transferred our data collection to an electronic device? Are we taking the right type of data? Types of visuals. If you have an individual that is non-verbal, displays some pretty aggressive behaviors, and requires a good deal of support, what type of visuals are you going to use to make the connection so that they understand the material and the content that you're trying to teach them? Benefits of physical activity. We know the benefits of physical activity, but in doing a lot of my research, I've identified and noticed that individuals who have an exceptionality tend to be on the obese range. Is it because of the behavior that's impeding their physical activity, and or not everyone, but most people are not sure how to get past that and work through the behavior so that you can help that individual come as close to a quality of life as possible? What is it? And I'm kind of hoping that through this presentation, we'll be able to uncover some of those things. How can we increase physical activity? The statement physical activity or exercise may be an adverse statement. As soon as the student hears it, they go into panic mode. They think the person or paraprofessional or staff member that is with that individual or with that person is trying to force them to do things that they don't want to do. How are we going to increase their physical activity while also increasing their joy of this leisure activity of physical education? How are we going to do that? What types of technology will we be using? I use a series of technology in my classroom, ranging from iPods to iPads to Chromebooks, to reach or connect with the student where they're at. That's what I'm often doing. I'm meeting them where they're at mentally, across all topics and areas of their um, life. So I think in order for me to proceed with this presentation, I have to really define our audience, like who would benefit from these types of supports. I think everyone would benefit from knowing a little about how we can reach individuals with exceptionalities, more specifically individuals with autism spectrum disorder. But I wanted to shape and frame this presentation. So by doing that, I found this description. Autism or autism spectrum disorder refers to a range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech and nonverbal communication, as well as by unique strengths and differences. We know that there is not one autism, but many types, caused by different combinations of genetic and environmental influences. So, autism spectrum disorder, we know that this is a spectrum disorder. No one person is the same. They may display some of the similar traits or self stimulatory behavior, but no individual is the same. And I would have to agree, and I think most people will agree. And so, in knowing that, how can we meet the needs of each unique individual person with ASD? So, around one third of people with autism remain nonverbal, so limited to no language at all, and they're using some kind of augmented device to communicate upon receiving some type of instruction on how to use that device. Around one third of people with autism have an intellectual disability. So, someone that is diagnosed with autism may have a secondary, tertiary, fourth, fifth uh, disability category. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to be able to support this kid when I see this, this, and this? Well, that's where the IEP team comes into play. And you have to think as a team on how you're going to address the needs of that unique individual. What are you going to focus on? What are the priorities? How are you going to go from point A to point B, point C? If something doesn't work, what's your next step? What's your next strategy? Next thing, certain medical and mental health issues frequently accompany autism. I've alluded to that point with the previous point that I had made. An estimated of 50,000 teens with autism become adults and lose school-based autism services each year. Transition services, transition planning, so key when planning the life of an individual with an exceptionality. It's for all individuals. I'm taking a course right now on transition services, and in that course, not one thing, but there's a lot of things that continue to change my mode of thinking. And that one thing that I can think of right now in this specific moment is that transition services should not be the last thing that we think about as a team, especially when that kid is of or is going to be moving into transition age, which in the state of Pennsylvania is 14. And in the text and in our discussions, we should be looking at transition services at the very beginning as opposed to the present levels of educational placement, accommodations, and any other part of the IEP. And I didn't think that was true. I didn't think it was the right route to go. I was conditioned to believe or to think that transition services is just another section of the IEP. But I think it's very important, especially with this fourth bullet point, is that most individuals will lose services once they reach the age of 21, which is very, very scary, especially with an individual that has been receiving services for pretty much their entire life or since they've been identified with autism spectrum disorder. And then once they reach that age and not have supports, it's pretty scary. Maybe not for the student because they're not aware of what's going on, but for the parents. And then I go over some other points, but the last point I want to bring up is that the Center for Disease Control and Prevention estimates autism prevalence as 1 in 59 children in the United States. This includes 1 in 37 boys and 1 in 151 girls. This is a big change since the last time this data was provided. It has increased, so the likelihood of somebody being diagnosed with autism has increased. So, with knowing that information, how are we as educators going to provide that necessary support? So, we've identified a need, right? So, there's these individuals with a particular set of needs that we need to be able to provide support to. So there is increasing interest in establishing program guidelines for enhancing physical activity among individuals with autism. A major reason for this is because research suggests that autism prevalence is increasing and has reached an all-time high. This means that there will be an increasing number of children with autism in schools, physical education classes, and on sports teams. Autism, no matter what way you cut it, they're going to, I shouldn't say there, I mean, we're going to come into contact with individuals with autism spectrum disorder. If we do our job really well and plan and have an effective transition plan, we're going to come into contact with individuals with ASD on a day-to-day basis, greeting us at the grocery store, helping us pump gas, possibly running it would be awesome, like a YMCA, but in some way or capacity, we're going to come into contact with individuals with autism spectrum disorder. And I think that is a very positive and rewarding feeling because they themselves also should have as close to an equality of life as possible. So a person who may benefit from creative programming, this is something that I want you to keep in mind as I'm going through this presentation. This is an example of a person or character description that I pulled from my class that I'm currently in right now. And I felt like it spoke or addressed some of the things that I was doing for the type of students that I currently serve in my class. So I want you to keep this in mind as I'm walking you through this presentation. So Joe is a 15-year-old student with an intellectual disability who also exhibits some characteristics of associated with autism, showing little emotion, voice inflection, so it's a very monotone voice, and he likes to repeat or echo. So Joe is currently attending a public school and receiving supports from an autistic support teacher. He is cooperative and compliant and learns best through visual instructions such as modeling and has the endurance to work up to 90 minutes, which is great. All right, so he has work ethic, he's receiving supports, and he learns best by visual stimulus. Visuals help him learn. So keep that in mind. So with technology and allowing technology to support students, I think we have to understand that global term, assistive technology, right? So there's many parts to assistive technology. So visual thinking and learning in education. Visual learning strategies such as graphic organizers, diagrams, outlines, and more are being used in classrooms across the country, everywhere. So paired with the brain's capacity for images, visual learning strategies help students better understand and retain information. So what is assistive technology? Assistive technology, according to Technology-Related Assistance for Individuals with Disabilities Act, assistive technology device means any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially, off the shelf, modified, or customized that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of individuals with disabilities. Assistive technology is any service that directly assists an individual with a disability in the selection, acquisition, or use of an assistive technology device. Very fancy definition, right? So assistive technology, in a nutshell, is a device that assists an individual with an exceptionality. not only an exceptionality, but a neurotypical individual as well. So it's basically your assistant, and you're using it to improve the day-to-day task. So for me, I have my cell phone. I'm sure all of you have cell phones. You use the calendar function, you use the email, you use the web to browse. It's basically our personal assistant. So there are certain categories with assistive technology. And those categories include no tech tools and strategies, low tech tools and strategies, mid tech tools and strategies, high tech tools and strategies. So no tech tools and strategies, that's really just environmental arrangements carried out by a staff member or person, or by the individual. There's nothing really tangible. There's no materials involved. It's as minimal or basic as you can get. Low tech, you kind of step it up, and you require the student or staff person to utilize items, um, typically not electronic or battery operated, some kind of tactile item, almost like a picture exchange communication. They're usually lower cost items and are relatively easy to use. Another example would be a dry erase board, clipboards, 3-ring binders, photo albums. You kind of get the gist. Those are those low tech tools and strategies. And then from there, you go to more specific types of tech tools. And these are devices that have batteries, they're electronic devices, such as like a tape recorder. Um, with us being a one-to-one school, we have Chromebooks, and you can use a lot of different extensions for voice recording, highlighting text, and a few other options. High-tech tools and strategies, these involve the use of complex, uh, well, in a nutshell, it's a computer. It's video cameras. It's voice output device, like an augmentative communication device, iPads, iPods, computers, Chromebooks. All of those devices are your high tech tools, and things that you would use to provide an additional piece of support for the individual. This is just a visual that I found as I was doing my research, that 65% of the population are visual learners. 90% information transmitted to the brain is visual. So why aren't we doing more and more of this if we know that this is a strong strategy to use? So what type of visuals benefit individuals? I've talked about a few, and I just thought I'd throw some visuals up on his screen. So picture exchange communication, that's that tactile. You're taking a Velcro visual and you're putting it on a schedule. You're taking that same visual or PEC and put it on the completed side. It's really that tactile feeling. When I do this, I complete this, I receive this. Augmentative communication devices. These are devices that individuals use that are nonverbal or have very limited communication. And so by using like Proloquo to go on an iPad or a device, it allows that individual to communicate with their paraprofessional staff or a professional staff member within an educational setting. Um, what I'd like to use for my students are iPods, iPads. Uh, we do not have any Surfaces, but it's very similar to an iPad. And then applications that I will be discussing more in depth in this presentation include Timer and bFocus. So these are just some of the benefits of physical activity. Regular physical activity has amazing benefits, and we've discussed and had to write responses to research articles that we have completed throughout the course of, I think, 3 weeks. So these are just some of the benefits for physical activity. We know it's a positive. Right? We just need to get our learners to agree with us. This, I know I said benefits continued, and I know there's tons of benefits for individuals with disabilities or exceptionalities. And it promotes a healthy lifestyle. But one thing that we have to keep in mind is that a good portion of individuals with exceptionalities are overweight. Children with ASD is increased to 19%, with an additional 36% at risk for being overweight. More than half of all children with autism spectrum disorder are either overweight or at risk. And we just need to tap in to their brains and get them to understand the benefits of working out. Yes, that's what we have to do, but we have to do it in a very creative way. So BeFocus is an application that I used. I did a application review on it. I'm not sure if the video is going to work. It looks like the video is working. However, it is not working properly on the Screencastify that I'm using. So what I'm going to do is just get out of the app, select on the video, and play it. I am reviewing an application called BeFocus. This application can be downloaded on an iOS or Android device. It is free. However, if you want to upgrade the features, you can do so for a small fee. The only difference really is the advertisements go away, and it allows you to sync and see the screen from other devices, such as a tablet, computer, Surface, Microsoft Surface tablet, computer. It's really your choice. This application I am currently using or have used. I support students with autism spectrum disorder in a public school setting. So they're in gen ed, but they still require supports ranging from behavioral, social, executive functioning, and then life skills, job sampling. I mean, we do so much at our school, which is great. So this application, like I said, I am using, but it allows students or adults to create a schedule or workout plan for an individual to complete at a gym. So the idea is to increase independence without the support of an adult. I'm always thinking of ways to teach myself out of a job. So in this application, you're setting up tasks to prompt the next step. The task that you set up is connected with a timer, and that timer will go off, a notification will come up, and it will signal to the student that they need to go to the next task. So BeFocus, check out this application, and hopefully you can find a way to incorporate it into your current setting. So once you select the application, this will appear. Before I go any further, I just want to say that you can go in and out of this application, listen to music, go onto YouTube, whatever you want to do. It's playing in the background, which is great. So I'm just going to go ahead and go into Pandora. I think I'm listening to like 90s and 2000s greatest hits. So I have my music playing in the background, and I'm going to go over the app. So this application, you have a plus to do and then done sign up at the top, and then down at the bottom, you have 5 different options. I've already have some pre-selected tasks in there, so I'm going to select the plus sign. When I select the plus sign, fitness workout is what I'm going to type in there. As you can see, I already have that, but I'm just showing you how to add different tasks. If I swipe to the right, I have the option of selecting done or edit. If I edit the option, the only thing I'm really changing is the intervals in which the task will be completed. So if it's 1 or 2, you'll cycle through the whole workout plan and then repeat again. If I swipe to the left, I have the option of deleting it. I'm going to delete it because I already have fitness workout. This right here, once I start the workout, it's going to start the timer. So the timer is going. So go to cardio room. So I have a minute to go to the cardio room. It's a good idea if you're really trying to. I'm actually going to stop the application review ahead of schedule, only because there's much more information that I need to go over. And I see that I'm already at or getting close to my 30-minute range or time. The second application that I reviewed is called Timer Plus. Very similar. I am reviewing a second application. This application is called Timer Plus. It's kind of the same idea that you're using a timer while having the student go through a series of tasks. This particular application is a lot simpler, but it allows the individual with autism spectrum disorder, or any individual really, to follow a task while being prompted to go to the next task once the timer goes off. So once you select the application, this is what it will appear. Now, I already have some pre-generated tasks for a student to complete a workout plan. Like I talked about before, cardio, sitting bike, and treadmill are the 3 tasks that I have them going through. And once they go through that task, they're asked to wipe down the machine and then navigate to the next task. When taking data, and I'll talk about that in my presentation, it's important to track navigational as well as the prompts that they need to continue with the workout, because you want to see how you can support them and increasing their independence when working out. Some of the features on this application, you can upgrade it. I think it's like $2.99, and really you're just getting rid of the ads. Again, I'm going to stop the app review ahead of schedule, only because I'm running out of time. And I just want to make sure that I get to the remaining points that I am making in this presentation. Also, I will make sure to include those 2 videos on the email that I send out. The next part I'd like to talk about is data collection. What is data collection? Data collection is the process of gathering and measuring information on variables of interest in an established systematic fashion that enables one to answer stated research questions, test hypotheses, and evaluate outcomes. Data drives instruction. It is the pilot in everything that we do as far as supporting students. You need that good baseline data to determine the next step or steps. So how do we take the data? We interview, we take observations or do observations. We have focus groups. I like to think of focus groups as our IUP team. Documents and records, questionnaires and surveys, and then oral and case studies and graphics or graphs, ethnographs. So these are all ways that we can take data. And even going a little more specific, taking duration, frequency, and different types of data, interval data. I mean, there's so many ways that we can collect data. It's kind of overwhelming. So taking good data, important data, useful and meaningful data is very important. Examples of data collection, a way that I use or take data in the class when observing an individual with or observing an individual while they're doing their independent workout plan is that I create Google Forms. And that Google Form tallies the data that I am taking and transfers it to an Excel document. And so earlier I was discussing or setting the stage for more efficient ways that we can collect data. This is one way that I have been able to decrease the time that I'm spending on collecting data when observing a student completing an independent workout plan. So this right here is a Google form that I created. I was going to go into creating a Google form, but I just want to be mindful of the time. So this is the Google form that I created. And the things that I'm looking for is from start to finish. How is that student completing each task based on the hierarchy of strategies that I use to prompt? And when I say hierarchy, am I using a gestural, partial, physical prompt, full physical prompt, or verbal prompt? I place the verbal prompt at the bottom, and that's basic, or because verbal prompts are one of the hardest prompts to reshape. Okay, so I try to use the other prompts such as gestural, partial, and full physical prompt because it's a lot easier to fade out to increase the independence of the individual. So throughout the independent workout plan, I am taking data on what that student is doing and how they're doing it. So I list all the tasks, and I basically just cut and paste the hierarchy for each and every single task. And then based on the performance of the student, I just select the option. And I always think perception is everything. And so when I'm out doing these things within my school setting, I like to just carry my phone. And when I'm carrying my phone, it appears normal. I mean, everybody has their phone. So that is one way I collect data. All right, I'm not carrying around a binder, an iPad. I have my phone. I have the option of carrying my computer around too. So I submitted that response, and then I have the option of submitting another response. Well, I want to look at how the student is doing. So I am going to go into my drive, and in my drive, I have that document or form that I created. The really neat thing that I love about Google is that everything is so connected and talks to one another, which is great. So all the data that you submit goes into an Excel document or Excel sheet. So I can choose to look at it, all of the raw data, and I put in a couple of test submissions. So looking at all of the data, I get percentages based on the type of prompt that I use. So that's looking at it at a glimpse at it. I can then go to my Excel sheet, which has all of this really, really great data on it. And what I like to do is create charts. Well, sometimes it takes forever to create a chart. Well, this Explore feature in Google Excel allows you to take a snapshot of the data based on the prompts that I provided to that particular student. And if I want to, and I'm preparing for an IEP meeting and I need to show progress, I can then pull that graph out. I can even change the graph. Okay, go. Okay, so I'm not going to go into it right now, but I can change the graph and change it into a pie chart. Oh, there it is. I can change it into whatever I need to change it so that I can more accurately display the type of data that I am taking. So I'm using a Google form to take data on a student when they're completing an independent workout plan. And then I am also using Google Excel to help keep my data nice and organized. Sorry to be flipping in and out of this presentation. So those are two ways that I'm collecting data for students that are completing an independent workout plan. So basically, that's my presentation. I've discussed assistive technology. I've also defined our users. I've discussed why it's important. I've also talked about different technologies or applications that you can use. I know I wasn't able to show the full video. However, I will make sure to upload those videos so that you could check them out at your own time. And maybe you can use those applications when you're thinking of a way to have a student use a device such as an iPad or an iPod to follow those tasks. Talked about data collection and using Google Forms, and using Google Excel to create charts. And I just want to say thank you for listening to this presentation. I hope you were able to gain some new ideas, some new strategies. So thank you. And then I have this link for you to take a survey. Just try your best, and you're not going to be graded, but it's really just for me to get a better idea on the information that I talked about to see if you were able to at least gain a little bit, or gain some new information. And then I have my resources, and that's pretty much it. Thank you again, and have a wonderful time with the rest of this course.